My name is Lila, a 32-year-old marketing whiz who spent the last decade building a career I'm damn proud of. Campaigns that go viral, clients who adore me, a paycheck that says I don't need anyone's handouts. I'm not the type to back down from a fight, but I've got a soft spot for the people I love, and that's where Daniel comes in. He's my fiancé, a 34-year-old software engineer with a quiet strength that snuck up on me 3 years ago and never let go. We're solid. Laughter over late-night pizza, road trips with no playlist, the kind of love you don't question. But his mother, Patricia? She's a storm I never saw coming, a Category 5 hurricane in heels who decided I wasn't just wrong for her son. I was a plague to be eradicated. This isn't a story about subtle digs or passive-aggressive jabs. It's about the night she grabbed a mic at my engagement party and tried to torch my life in front of everyone I cared about. And trust me, it's only the beginning. It was a warm Chicago night in March 2025, the kind where the skyline glittered like a promise. Daniel and I had rented a rooftop venue for our engagement party, fairy lights strung up like stars, a DJ spinning tracks that kept the vibe light, a view of Lake Michigan that made you feel invincible. Our people were there, my parents sipping wine, Daniel's groomsmen cracking jokes, my cousin Jade live-streaming it all on her TikTok with a goofy grin. I was in a sleek black dress, Daniel in a sharp blazer, and for once, I thought we'd dodged the bullet of his mother's disapproval. Patricia had been a thorn since day one, side-eyeing my job, my casual style, my lack of a trust fund, but I'd figured she'd play nice for one night. I was wrong. Halfway through, after my dad's toast about how Daniel was the son he never had, the mood was golden. Then I heard it, a sharp tap on the mic, feedback screeching through the speakers. I turned, and there she was, Patricia, all 58 years of her, dripping in pearls and a smug smile, her blonde bob immaculate like she'd just stepped out of a country club meeting. "Attention, everyone," she said, her voice syrupy but edged with venom. "I have something very important to say." The room hushed, glasses pausing midair, eyes swiveling to her. I glanced at Daniel, his brow furrowing, and whispered, "What's she doing?" He shrugged, just as lost as me, but there was a flicker of unease in his hazel eyes. "This wedding," she said, pausing for effect, "won't happen, because I have a better bride for my son." I laughed, a short, disbelieving bark that echoed in the silence. She had to be kidding, right? Some twisted mother-in-law prank? The words hung there, absurd and sharp, slicing through the warm buzz of the rooftop party like a sudden gust off Lake Michigan. The fairy lights twinkled overhead, casting a soft glow on the stunned faces around me, and for a split second, I thought I'd misheard her. Then she stepped aside, and my laugh died in my throat, snuffed out like a candle in a storm. Standing next to her was a woman, tall, blonde, draped in a designer gown that screamed money, its emerald silk catching the light in a way that made my simple black dress feel like a thrift store rag. Her smile was tight, nervous, her blue eyes darting around like she wasn't sure she belonged here. The room went dead, a pin-drop quiet that made my skin crawl, the kind of silence that presses down on you until you can hear your own heartbeat thudding in your ears. I looked at Daniel, expecting him to be as stunned as I was, my fiancé's familiar face a lifeline in this sudden madness, but his expression wasn't confusion. It was fury, raw and unfiltered, his jaw locked so tight I could see the muscle twitch, his fists curling at his sides until his knuckles whitened. Patricia beamed, oblivious to the bomb she'd just lit, her pearls glinting under the lights like a smug little crown. "This is Vanessa," she announced, gesturing to the woman like she was unveiling a prize at a gala, her voice dripping with triumph. "The woman my son is actually meant to marry. From a good family, a woman who'll give him the life he deserves." My stomach lurched, a cold wave of shock crashing into a hot flare of anger that made my hands tremble. I stood there, rooted to the hardwood floor, my heels suddenly feeling unsteady beneath me. The crowd, our family, our friends, froze, glasses hovering midair, mouths half open, eyes bouncing between Patricia, this Vanessa, and us like they were watching a car wreck unfold in slow motion. My mom's wineglass tilted in her hand, her wide eyes locked on me as if waiting for me to signal what came next. Dad's brow furrowed, his usual calm cracking just a little. Jade, my cousin, stood near the bar, her phone still up, live streaming the whole damn thing. Her jaw dropped, but her finger didn't waver, the red live dot blinking like a warning light. Marcus, Daniel's best man and a lawyer with a grin that could charm a judge, leaned against a table, his dark eyes narrowing as he took a slow sip of his whiskey, sizing up the chaos like it was a case he could win. Patricia kept going, her voice rising with every word, oblivious to the tension coiling tighter around her. "Lila's a lovely girl, don't get me wrong," she said, turning to me with that fake, syrupy smile I'd learned to hate over the past 3 years. "But let's be honest, she's not right for Daniel. She's ambitious, sure, a career woman, but she's not one of us. She doesn't understand what our family needs, what Daniel deserves. One of us." The phrase hit me like a slap, sharp and stinging, and I felt my cheeks flush, not with embarrassment, but with a fury that burned up my spine. I glanced at Daniel again, his face a mask of barely contained rage, his hazel eyes dark and stormy, fixed on his mother like he could will her to vanish. I stepped forward, my heels clicking loud against the floor, the sound cutting through the silence like a gunshot. "What the hell makes you think you can do this?" I asked, my voice steady despite the tremor in my chest, loud enough to carry over the rooftop, drawing every eye to me. Patricia turned, her smile faltering for a heartbeat before she recovered, tilting her head with that condescending pity she'd perfected. "Oh, sweetheart," she said, her tone soft but laced with venom. "It's not personal. I just want what's best for my son." I let out a short, bitter laugh, the sound harsh even to my own ears. "Not personal? You're standing here at my engagement party trying to replace me with some random woman I've never met. How is that not personal?" Her eyes narrowed, her lips pursing like she'd tasted something sour, but before she could fire back, Daniel's voice cut through the air like a whip. "Enough!" He stepped forward, his blazer shifting as he moved, his presence filling the space between us. His eyes locked on his mother, cold and unyielding, a look I'd never seen him aim at her before, pure, unfiltered disgust. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he said, slow and deliberate, each word a hammer strike, his voice low but carrying a weight that made the room shrink. Patricia blinked, her composure slipping, but she rallied fast, smoothing her hands down her dress like she could brush off his anger. "Danny, sweetheart," she said, her voice rising into that coaxing tone she used when he was 5 and she wanted him to eat his vegetables. "I know this is a surprise, but trust me." "No," he snapped, louder now, his voice booming across the rooftop, silencing her mid-sentence. "This is insane." He turned to Vanessa, who flinched under his gaze, her nervous smile fading as she shifted her weight, her heels scraping the floor. "Did my mother put you up to this?" he asked, his tone sharp enough to cut glass. Vanessa hesitated, her eyes flicking to Patricia, then to the crowd, then down to her perfectly manicured hands clutching a clutch that probably cost more than my rent. She nodded, a small, reluctant jerk of her head. "I'm sorry," she muttered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the city below. "She reached out months ago, said you were being pressured into marrying the wrong person. She begged me to come tonight, said it'd be good for you." Months ago. The words slammed into me like a freight train, my breath catching as the realization sank in. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment tantrum. Patricia had been planning this, a slow, calculated plot to rip me out of Daniel's life, and she'd chosen tonight, our night, to pull the trigger. I felt my knees wobble, but I locked them in place, refusing to let her see me falter. Daniel ran a hand through his dark hair, exhaling a sharp, bitter laugh that didn't reach his eyes. "Wow," he said, shaking his head, his voice dripping with disbelief. "You really thought I'd dump the woman I love and go along with this?" Patricia folded her arms, her face flushing red, her pearls catching the light as she straightened her spine. "I'm saving you from a mistake, Daniel," she said, her voice rising with conviction. "One day you'll see—" "You've lost your mind," he cut in, his tone icy, stepping closer until he loomed over her, his 6'2" frame casting a shadow across her smug little stage. "What century do you think we're in? You don't get to pick my wife." The word wife hit me hard, a jolt of warmth cutting through the rage, and I felt my heart stutter. He'd said it before, but never like this, never with that fierce, unshakable certainty. Patricia's eyes widened, her mouth opening to argue, but before she could, Jade's voice piped up from the back, loud and gleeful. "Yo, this is next level. Chat's blowing up. Team Lila's at 85%, y'all. Keep it coming." She waved her phone, her brown eyes sparkling with mischief, and I caught a glimpse of the screen, comments flying. "Get her, Lila. Daniel's a king. This lady's unhinged." Patricia shot her a glare that could have melted steel, but Jade just grinned wider, unfazed. Then Marcus stepped forward, his whiskey glass still in hand, his dark suit rumpled from leaning too long against the table. Hold up, he said, his deep voice cutting through the tension with a casual drawl. You're telling me you planned this for months, Patricia? Brought in a whole-ass replacement bride like it's some reality show twist? That's bold, even for you. He took a sip, his lips twitching with a smirk, and the crowd tittered, nervous laughter rippling through the shock. Patricia's face darkened, but before she could snap at him, another voice chimed in. My best friend Tessa, a fiery redhead who'd never liked Patricia from day one. She pushed through the crowd, her green dress swishing, her arms crossed tight. Seriously, Patricia? You think you can just waltz in here and play puppet master? Newsflash, Daniel's not your little boy anymore. Patricia's head whipped around, her eyes flashing with indignation. This doesn't concern you, she hissed at Tessa, then turned back to Daniel, softening her tone. Danny, listen to me. Lila's not right for you. She's too independent, too focused on her little career. Vanessa comes from a good family. She understands our world. Your world? I interrupted, my voice rising despite myself, the anger boiling over. What world is that, Patricia? The one where you think money and status mean more than love? Because that's not Daniel's world, and it sure as hell isn't mine. The crowd murmured, a few nods from my side. Mom, Dad, my Aunt Karen. While Daniel's Uncle Rick, a gruff ex-cop who'd always been neutral, shifted uncomfortably, his beer bottle dangling from his hand. Daniel turned to me, his hand finding mine, his grip firm and grounding, his thumb brushing over my knuckles in a way that steadied me. You okay? He asked, his voice low, meant just for me, his eyes searching mine with a softness that cut through the chaos. I nodded, swallowing hard, my throat tight. Yeah, you? He squeezed my hand, a faint smile tugging at his lips despite the storm in his eyes. I am now. Then he faced his mother again, his resolve hardening like steel. I'm done, Mom, he said, his voice ringing out clear and final. Done trying to get you to respect my choices, done making excuses for you. I love Lila, we're getting married, and if you can't accept that, you're not invited to the wedding. The room sucked in a collective breath. Mom's hand flew to her chest. Marcus let out a low, damn. Jade whooped, that's my boy. Into her phone, Tessa clapped loud and sharp. Patricia's face crumpled, her eyes widening with a mix of shock and panic, her perfect mask slipping. You don't mean that, she stammered, her voice trembling now, her hands clutching her purse like it could save her. I do, he said, no hesitation, no crack in his armor, and I felt a surge of pride so fierce it nearly knocked me over. She looked around, her gaze darting across the crowd, searching for allies. Uncle Rick avoided her eyes. Aunt Claire fidgeted with her bracelet. Even her usual yes-man cousin Phil stayed silent, his beer bottle halfway to his mouth. She was alone, and she knew it. You'll regret this, she snapped, her voice shaking with rage, her composure fracturing as she pointed a manicured finger at Daniel. One day you'll thank me for trying to stop this mistake, and don't come crying to me when it all falls apart. Daniel didn't flinch, his grip on my hand tightening. The only mistake I made was thinking you'd change, he said, his voice calm but cutting, a blade sliding clean through her bullshit. Patricia's face twisted, fury and defeat warring in her eyes, and then she spun on her heel, storming toward the exit, her heels clacking like a machine gun on the hardwood. Vanessa muttered a quick, I'm so sorry, under her breath, her face flushed with embarrassment, and scurried after her, her gown trailing like a defeated flag. Silence held for a beat, thick and heavy, then the room exploded. Daniel's groomsmen cheered, my dad clapped slow and steady, Jade yelled, We're at 1 million views, bitches. Into her phone, Marcus raised his glass with a grin. Best damn toast of the night, he called, and laughter broke out, shattering the tension like a popped balloon. Tessa rushed over, pulling me into a hug, her voice fierce in my ear. You're a badass, Lila. She's done. I hugged her back, my heart pounding, adrenaline still buzzing through me. But as I looked at Daniel, his arm slipping around my waist, his smile small but real, I knew she wasn't. People like Patricia don't just walk away, they reload. The party kicked back into gear, harder than before. Marcus led fake toasts to Patricia, the architect of her own disaster. Jade's live stream hit 1.5 million, strangers online betting on whether Vanessa would sue for emotional distress. Daniel and I danced under the lights, his hands warm on my hips, his breath against my ear as he whispered, We've got this. But an hour later, his phone buzzed on the table, and his face darkened as he read it. What? I asked, my stomach tightening, the high of the night souring fast. He showed me, a text from an unknown number. Enjoy your little win. By morning she'll be gone. My blood chilled, my fingers tightening around his arm. She? I said, my voice sharp. You, he said, his jaw clenching, his eyes narrowing with a fury I hadn't seen since the mic drop. Another text followed. You're a fool, Daniel. I warned you. My heart raced, a cold sweat prickling my skin. This wasn't a tantrum, it was a threat. Then his dad called, Mr. Carter, a quiet man who'd spent 20 years dodging Patricia's drama, his voice gravelly through the speaker. Daniel answered, his face shifting from confusion to rage in seconds. What do you mean she's at your house? He snapped, his free hand raking through his hair. I froze, my pulse hammering. No, I didn't know she was coming. What's she saying? He listened, then closed his eyes, exhaling hard through his nose like he was trying not to explode. She told you what? He nearly yelled. I grabbed his arm, my nails digging in. Daniel, what's happening? He pulled the phone away, his eyes meeting mine, grim and furious. She told my dad you're cheating on me. Says she's got proof you're after my money, that you've got someone else. She's trying to get him to stop the wedding. My world spun, my breath catching in my throat. Proof? I whispered, my voice shaking. He shook his head, his grip on the phone tightening. It's bullshit. Mr. Carter's voice crackled through. Daniel hit speaker. Son, I didn't buy it, but she's got photos. Says you need to see them. Daniel's phone buzzed. An email. He opened it, and there they were. Grainy shots of me at a coffee shop, sitting across from a guy, my hand on his in one frame. My blood turned to ice, my stomach dropping. That's Lucas, I said, my voice trembling with rage. My cousin. She knows that. Daniel's eyes widened. He'd met Lucas, knew the story, lunch a few weeks back before he left town. She's been stalking you, he said, his voice low and dangerous, a growl building in his throat. Dad, Daniel said, his voice tight over the speaker. You hearing this? Mr. Carter's sigh came through, heavy and worn, like a man who'd carried Patricia's chaos for too long. I am, son. She's lost it, Daniel. I think it's time to cut her loose. The words landed like a thunderclap, a seismic shift I hadn't expected. Mr. Carter, the quiet shadow who'd spent decades dodging her storms, finally drawing a line. I felt a jolt of hope, sharp and electric, cutting through the rage that had been simmering since those grainy photos hit Daniel's inbox. Daniel nodded, his jaw clenched so hard I could see the muscle twitch, his eyes burning with a mix of fury and relief. Yeah, it is, he said, his voice low but final, a door slamming shut on years of excuses. Marcus stepped closer, his whiskey glass still in hand, his lawyer brain kicking into gear as he overheard. Photos, huh? He said, his deep voice laced with a grin. Send 'em to me, man. We've got a harassment case brewing here, maybe even stalking if she's been tailing Lila. Jade spun around, her phone still rolling, her brown eyes wide with glee. Stalker alert! Chat, should we dox her or nah? 90% Team Lila, let's go. Tessa smirked, cracking her knuckles like she was ready to throw down. Let me at her first. I'll make her regret ever holding a mic. I stood there, my heart pounding, adrenaline buzzing through my veins like a live wire. Those photos, me and Lucas at that coffee shop, my hand on his as we laughed over some dumb family story, twisted into something ugly by Patricia's hands. She'd been following me, lurking in the shadows like some cheap private eye, waiting for a moment she could spin into her narrative. The realization made my skin crawl, a cold sweat prickling my neck, but it also lit a fire in me. I wasn't just pissed anymore, I was ready to fight. Daniel turned to me, his hand still gripping mine, his thumb brushing over my knuckles in a way that grounded me. We're ending this, he said, his voice steady, his eyes locked on mine with a fierce certainty that made my chest ache. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. Damn right we are. The party didn't stop. Marcus rallied the groomsmen into another round of fake toasts. To Patricia, the gift that keeps on giving. While Jade's live stream hit 2 million views, her chat exploding with emojis and get her chants. But under the laughter, I felt the tension coiling tighter. Patricia wasn't done, not by a long shot. An hour later, as Daniel and I grabbed a quiet moment by the railing, his phone buzzed again. He groaned, pulling it out, and his face darkened as he read. What now? I asked, my stomach twisting. He showed me, a text from her. You think this is over? I've only started. She'll ruin you, Daniel, and I'll prove it. My blood chilled, my fingers tightening around his arm. She's unhinged, I said, my voice shaking with a mix of fear and fury. He nodded, his jaw tight. She's desperate. That's worse. The next morning I woke up to a voicemail. Her voice, cold and sharp, dripping with venom. Lila, you should have walked away when you had the chance. Check your email. I grabbed my laptop, my hands trembling as I opened my inbox, and there it was. A formal complaint sent to my company, CC'd to my boss, claiming I'd been siphoning funds, harassing clients, showing up drunk to meetings. Every word a lie, typed out in crisp professional font like she'd spent hours crafting it. My breath caught, my vision blurring with rage. She wasn't just coming for my relationship, she was coming for my life. Daniel stormed in, coffee mug in hand, and saw my face. "What?" he demanded, setting the mug down so hard it sloshed onto the counter. I showed him, my voice shaking. "She's trying to get me fired." His eyes widened, then narrowed, his fists clenching. "That's it. She's done." We didn't panic. We fought. I marched into work, my laptop under my arm, and sat my boss, Emily, down. She's a no-nonsense woman, 40s, sharp bob and sharper eyes, and she listened as I laid it all out. Jade's video from the party, Patricia's texts, the fake photos with Lucas. "She's been stalking me, Emily," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "This complaint? It's her." Emily leaned back, her lips pursing as she scrolled through the evidence. 5 minutes, she said, and called legal. By noon, the complaint was trash. Patricia's name flagged, her lies exposed, and a restraining order filed faster than she could blink. "She's blacklisted," Emily said, a rare smirk tugging at her mouth. "No one in this industry's touching her now." Daniel took it further. He called Marcus, who grinned like a kid on Christmas. "Oh, we're suing her ass. Defamation, emotional distress, the works," he said, already typing up the paperwork. Jade jumped in, posting the whole saga to her 3 million followers, clips of the party, screenshots of the texts, a blurry photo of Patricia lurking outside my office from a week back I hadn't even noticed. "This is war, fam," she captioned it, and the internet ate it up, hashtags trending, memes of Patricia with a mic flooding Twitter. Mr. Carter stepped up too, his voice gruff over the phone. "I'm cutting her off, Daniel. No more support. She's on her own." Her empire, money, status, control, crumbled in days, her own sister texting Daniel, "I'm done with her. You're better off." But Patricia didn't stop. She never did. 2 weeks before the wedding, she tried one last move. I was at my bridal shower, laughing with Tessa and Jade, when my phone rang, an unknown number. I answered, and her voice slithered through. "You think you've won? I've got friends who'll bury you." I hung up, my hands shaking, and told Daniel. He grinned, fierce and unbothered. "Let her try." Marcus laughed, pulling out his laptop. "I've got a countersuit ready. Bring it, Patty." Jade smirked, her phone out. "Round 2, chat?" That night we heard she'd tried crashing the shower. Security turned her away, her screams echoing down the street as Jade caught it all on video, 5 million views by morning. The wedding was June 2025, a lakeside dream. White roses, soft music, Daniel in a tux that made my heart skip, no Patricia in sight. We danced under the stars, his arms around me, his breath warm against my ear. "We did it," he whispered, and I grinned, my cheek against his. Damn right we did. She'd moved away, we heard, some rundown apartment in a nowhere town, no family, no money, a shadow of the queen she'd been. But a month later my phone buzzed as I lounged with Daniel, his legs tangled with mine on the couch. An unknown number. "You'll pay for this, Lila. I'm not finished." I showed him, and he laughed, low and dangerous. "She's got nothing left." Marcus texted, "Lawsuits filed. Her friends bailed." Jade chimed in, "Should I leak it, fam?" I didn't reply. Let her stew in her empty threats, her broken world. I've got Daniel, my career, my fight, and she's got dust and delusions, clawing at shadows she'll never catch. Here's what I learned. Some people build their lives on control, thinking they can twist the world to fit their rules. Patricia bet on that and lost everything. Me? I learned to stand tall, to swing back, and damn, it's sweet on this side. What about you? Ever faced a Patricia, a mic drop maniac who pushed too far? Drop your stories below. Let's hear your battles, your wins. Who's ready for round 3?